We're back with some Ateez. It's you.
Those
Already?
foot sounds were not in line with his actual stepping.
So
They were a specific beat, like a tempoed step, but they were not actually the footsteps he was making. His shoulders were dropping at the wrong time for that. I saw it.
that's a
I
whole
saw
thing.
it.
That's a whole thing. Whoa. That's what I said.
Look at the way right, 흔들림 없지 bright 24/7 난 준비해 flashing light 춤을 춰 day and night 발 맞춰 feeling right 움직여 all day night 온몸을 파고드는 show show flow flow we gon' take it slow slow go 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 oh we gon' keep it low slow 떠올라 지금 마치 airplane 춤 이건 마치 hurricane 지금 이 순간 그래 이 순간 느낄 수 있어 네가 있음을 너를 위해
This is much more artistic R&B than I'm used to from Ateez. Usually I'm used to more like,
Used to the other two songs that we've heard?
well, yes, but like the other two songs, they surprised me in, hey, they're using really different music techniques or things like that, as opposed to really different visuals. They're less artistic songs and more of like a kind of a rap hardcore, like, hey, let's all go, let's be rebels type thing.
Like a hype.
Yes, like a hype song. This is far more artistic. And I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Noticeably, the dancing. The dancing really stands out to me. It's a little slower. It feels more deliberate. It feels more like not just let's dance to the music, but let's really incorporate this element into the overall picture that is the music. And then the scenes too, and their transitions. So there's a lot of artistry in their transition work, and that's been really cool and smooth. So
Yeah, my
combining
favorite.
choreography and editing to give you those transitions to the new positions, it's not something I know how to do, but it's something that I'm very impressed with.
Yeah, I can second that. I'm not good at that stuff. But my favorite editing / dancing moment is when they had like the drum hi-hat getting hit, and every time the hi-hat got hit, it would switch between the people in the background, kind of in the red booth, and then the guy dancing in the foreground. It made them both almost look ghost-like, even though they weren't making them transparent. That's how your mind processes it. It was really quite cool.
Right, and they weren't ghosts.
And they were not ghosts. Or were they?
느낄 수 있어 네가 있음을 너를 위하니 너희는 또 영원을 향해 가 Singing oh 지금 이 순간 바로 이 순간 On my body I don't wanna stop until the break of dawn 널 향한 내 무대는 끝이 없어 아직도 Yeah it's you Yeah it's you On my body I don't wanna stop until the break of dawn 널 위한 내 노래가 세상 가득 퍼져가 Yeah it's you Yeah it's you
Time never waits, shining till it's late. Light is what we create.
Such an interesting bridge and chorus.
Yeah. Was that synthetically done there, do you think? Or was that natural, do you think? The vocals there. I think
would
it sounded
bet
like
synthetic.
Yeah, interesting. I think at least the volume's augmented. I mean, at that volume.
Well, yeah.
At that pitch. But how much of that is pushed down and how much of that is starting there? Good question.
Yeah, no way to really know without having seen the initial performance of it. But obviously it was volume enhanced. There's no way you're going to be as loud as all of the music going around,
Yeah.
you know. No, I really enjoyed the dancing there. I thought the dancing matched very well with the overall vibe they're going for with the song, as well as just being very talented dancers. The again with the transitions between having lots of dancers and then back to just Ateez and then lots of dancers was very well done in ways that were surprising when they hit, and despite happening over and over, not losing impact.
Yeah, and thematically with the birdcage. So when they were in the birdcage the second time, I was like, it's like a birdcage, you know. And then they turned it to the birdcage.
The actual birdcage. Yeah.
And I like that they use that imagery to express this concept of like I'm free to like dance and just make this thing go with no end, you know. And it's like my body being like the thing that I'm free with, and taking that concept of the birdcage, the freedom of it getting open and the birds coming out, and the dancing and the lyrics all together. I think it mixes that idea up together, and it strengthens it, supports it.
Yeah. I also liked that whenever they go in, or not whenever, but for the first few times they went into this person in the birdcage scene, they were going through some form of mirror, be it a puddle on a ground or a piece of glass. They were going through some form of mirror to kind of enter the mind and see this.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't catch that. Ooh, now I'm going to be watching for it.
리듬 속의 탄식 호흡 안에 퍼진 둘만의 그런 방해 없이 자유롭게 꿈의 경계는 없지 환희롭게 오직 우리를 위해 준비한 환상 속의 네버랜드 끝이 없이 날아갈 날개를 단 피터팬 지금 이 순간 그래 이 순간 느낄 수 있어 바로 이 순간 On my body I don't wanna stop until the break of dawn 널 향한 내 무대는 끝이 없어 아직도 Yeah it's you Yeah it's you On my body I don't wanna stop until the break of dawn 널 위한 내 노래가 세상 가득 퍼져가 Yeah it's you Yeah it's you 괜찮아 여전히 너와 나 함께해 이리 와 떠나자 우리 세계 On my body I don't wanna stop until the break of dawn 널 향한 내 무대는 끝이 없어 아직도 Yeah it's you Yeah it's you On my body I don't wanna stop until the break of dawn
So I just want to comment on one thing before I forget about it. They had an entire verse. I was going to say chorus.
That's like a mix.
They had an entire verse that was really focused on things happening in the mind, both visually and lyrically. It was focused on things going into the mind, and it was focusing on how we're going to create this whole new world for ourselves. And then immediately when the drop happened and it switched to the chorus, oh my body, it wants you. And it switched back to very like physically intensive dance moves to focus on. There's this juxtaposition going on between what they want mentally, what they want in their mind versus what they're feeling that's pushing them a different way. And just trying to deal with that is kind of the whole imagery I'm getting out of this. You guys can tell me how much I'm on track or off track, because you guys probably know better than I do. But that's kind of what I'm getting out of this. It's juxtaposition of wanting something mentally, trying to create this world, and being pulled in a different direction by like physical desire.
Yeah, so excuse me. One of the things that really stood out to me was this last sequence in the birdcage where he's going, it's a very slow, mellow dance. And it's a very like thought-provoking type of dance. It's almost like a very thoughtful dance, you know? And it's like you're saying, where he's exploring this concept, right? And then manifesting the concept at the drop, right? And the way that they're able to portray this dance, kind of like how we think about things, is really cool. And I really like it. You know, there's this saying like silence is like louder than noise, you know. So I just made that up. I'm just BSing you right now if we're gonna be real. I made that up. Anyway, the mellowness of this made it stand out more than the pop of the other stuff to me. Yeah. And sometimes that can happen, and that's kind of a cool thing when that happens, because it just is. Well, so I'm on one today.
It's the same as the artistic use of blank space.
Yes. You
use the blank space as this negative space, they call it.
Yeah.
You use that to emphasize the active space, to try to drive the eye in the correct direction. And effective use of negative space really emphasizes the other points. And what counts as negative and what counts as positive really depends on the context.
What would I do without you?
Yeah, I had missed that chorus line the whole time. This song that I made for you, it's spreading around the world. That's interesting. It's like this isn't what I intended for this, and you can kind of see that in the one of the last scenes where he's kind of holding himself there, and you can tell he's sad. He's like, I didn't make it for this. This isn't what I intended for this song to do. It kind of blew up. It's for you. I'm sorry, it went everywhere too. Yeah, very interesting. They put lots of different things you can think about in that one. There was never like this song's definitely about this. It was kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and
Not in a negative way. It's just that's how things happen.
when you see performers like this who can sing fantastically, who can dance fantastically, who have good expression in their faces and also in their voices, sometimes we don't realize like how incredibly skilled the other people in the production are.
Yeah.
But what really stood out to me, especially in this, was the film work, the film and editing work.
Mm-hmm.
Like those transitions and the choreography,
Well, and the
mixing
use
those
of
things
camera
together and
angles.
like changing from scene to scene seamlessly was just, that was insanely impressive. And the use of camera angles and the movements of the cameras and all these different things, that was insanely impressive. I mean,
the entire production.
props to everybody on that, because that was really a team effort.
Yeah, that was the best Ateez I've seen, in my opinion, yet. I really, really liked the way they used the camera angles. In the wet, rainy, dark scene, they made sure to use low light sources, had the camera down low, really emphasizing kind of the darkness, that feeling. You'll see that a lot in like zombie video games. They'll have low light sources and the camera will be kind of down low on the character's third person back to give that emphasis of feeling. But at the same time, when it was the birdcage, they switched to high camera angles for the most part, high camera angles and close-ups to really emphasize kind of the awkwardness of the moment of being looked at all the time like you're in a cage. And they did a really good job with camera angles of emphasizing those emotions.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild, like how the production things can add so much value to the performance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times we just don't realize like how much just something like lighting or sound or staging or choreography or like camera angles and post-production editing can make a huge difference. So like
Enormous difference.
you might know the names of all the band members. You should go know the names of all the people who are making these videos too, because they deserve your applause.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all we've got for you today.